Chris Pratt isn't the Hollywood golden boy some people thought he'd be, and for some, that's a good thing. He's the lovable goofball we saw rise from Parks and Recreation's Andy Dwyer to the action-packed Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy and the dino-wrangling Owen Grady in Jurassic World. Yet somewhere along the way, Pratt's open defiance against the so-called woke Hollywood made him public enemy number one to some and a hero to others. So what makes Chris Pratt such a divisive figure in the current Hollywood landscape? For starters, Pratt has never been shy about his Christian faith. In an industry where religion, particularly Christianity, isn't often center stage, he's made no bones about being a man of faith. Whether it's his speech at the 2018 MTV Movie and TV Awards where he advised viewers to pray and believe in God.
God is real. God loves you. God wants the best for you. Believe that. I do.
Or his Instagram posts about attending church, Pratt's spiritual compass is unshakable. But in today's climate, wearing your faith on your sleeve can attract criticism. The problem some people have with him, though, isn't just his beliefs, but his unwillingness to bend to Hollywood's expectations of political correctness. One of the major points of contention came when Pratt was accused of belonging to a church that was allegedly anti-LGBTQ+. This sparked a social media storm, with users attacking him for supporting institutions that don't align with progressive values. Yet rather than bending to the pressure, Pratt clapped back in an Instagram story, writing, "Nothing could be further from the truth. I go to a church that opens its doors to absolutely everyone." He added, "No church defines me or my life, and I am not a spokesman for any church or group of people." In a world where celebrities are quick to issue public apologies, Pratt stood his ground. He didn't give an inch to cancel culture, and that ruffled more than a few feathers. But the controversies didn't stop there. Pratt's apparent silence on certain political issues, especially during the 2020 election, led some to believe he leaned more conservative. While his co-stars in the Marvel Cinematic Universe were endorsing liberal candidates and causes, Pratt opted to sit out. This prompted a wave of backlash, and social media users began calling for his cancellation. The hashtag #CancelChrisPratt even trended on Twitter for a time. Pratt, however, didn't seem phased. His actions, or lack thereof, spoke louder than words, implying that he doesn't feel the need to publicize every political opinion or jump into every cultural debate. For his fans, this restraint made him more relatable, a guy who, like many, just doesn't want to make everything about politics. And then there's the infamous Worst Chris debate that nearly derailed his online presence. A viral tweet asked which Hollywood Chris should be booted off the celebrity island: Evans, Hemsworth, Pine, or Pratt. Predictably, Pratt was the one the internet ganged up on, citing everything from his church attendance to his perceived conservative leanings. Nevertheless, his Hollywood peers, including Robert Downey Jr., Mark Ruffalo, and his wife Katherine Schwarzenegger, all came rushing to his defense. Downey Jr. said, "What a world. The sinless are casting stones at my brother, Chris Pratt." If anything, the ordeal only seemed to solidify Pratt's image as a guy who's standing against the grain, refusing to play by the rules of the woke agenda. But the truth is, Pratt has never shied away from being his authentic self, even if it rubs some people the wrong way. He doesn't apologize for hunting, for his blue-collar background, or for being openly Christian. In a tense face-off with woke Hollywood, where actors bend under pressure to conform, Pratt holds his ground like a solid oak, unbothered by the storm. Chappelle is one of those comedians who doesn't back down, even when Hollywood and its so-called woke culture seem to be calling for his head. He's become the face of pushback, standing up to what many see as overly sensitive reactions to comedy and free speech. Yet, what's even more interesting is how he's done it, through sharp wit, biting humor, and an unapologetic attitude that has him staring down woke Hollywood without blinking. Chappelle's backstory is crucial here. He was at the height of his career with Chappelle's Show, a groundbreaking sketch comedy series that brilliantly tackled race, politics, and societal taboos. But in 2005, when things were exploding for him, Chappelle shocked everyone by walking away from a $50 million contract. Why? Well, while filming a sketch involving racial stereotypes and a character in blackface, Chappelle noticed a particular audience member, a white man, laughing in a way that made him uneasy. He felt the laughter was different, more like people were laughing at him, not with him. This reaction triggered concerns for Chappelle, making him question if the show was reinforcing stereotypes instead of challenging them. Fast forward to recent years, Chappelle has taken on cancel culture and wokeness in ways that have both infuriated and thrilled audiences. During his special, The Closer, Chappelle didn't hold back. He took aim at everything from gender identity to the hypocrisy he saw in how woke Hollywood treats free speech. He declared, "Gender is a fact," and continued,
"I am not saying that to say that trans women aren't women. I am just saying that those pussies that they got, you know what I mean? I'm not saying it's not pussy, but that's like beyond pussy or impossible pussy. You know what I mean? It tastes like pussy, but that's not quite what it is it? It's not blood, that's beet juice."
This ignited a firestorm of backlash, particularly from LGBTQ+ activists who demanded that Netflix remove his special. Yet, Chappelle didn't back down. In response, he doubled down, saying, "I said what I said." He even joked, "If this is what being canceled is like, I love it." His defiance sent shockwaves across social media, sparking debates everywhere about whether comedy still had the freedom to offend. Chappelle's conflict with Hollywood goes beyond just the stage, though. After the release of The Closer, Netflix employees staged a walkout in protest, calling his comments harmful. But Chappelle didn't cave. Instead, he responded to the backlash in an Instagram video stating, "To the transgender community, I am more than willing to give you an audience, but you will not summon me. I am not bending to anyone's demands, and if you want to meet with me, I am more than willing to, but I have some conditions. First of all, you cannot come if you have not watched my special from beginning to end. You must come to a place of my choosing at a time of my choosing. And thirdly, you must admit that Hannah Gadsby is not funny." Gina Carano, once a rising star in Hollywood and fan favorite as the tough-as-nails Cara Dune in The Mandalorian, has become something of a lightning rod for controversy, especially when it comes to her outspoken opposition to woke culture in the entertainment industry. Born into a world of combat sports before transitioning to acting, Carano has always been a fighter, and it seems that taking on Hollywood's political landscape is just another battle for her. Carano's clash with Hollywood reached its boiling point in early 2021 when she was fired from The Mandalorian after a series of social media posts that, let's just say, didn't exactly align with Disney's corporate image. One tweet in particular, where she compared the political divide in America to the persecution of Jews during the Holocaust, got people fuming. This didn't help matters because Carano had been poking the bear for a while. She criticized mask mandates during the height of the pandemic and posted voter fraud comments, tweeting things like, "In a world where everyone wears a mask, it's a privilege to see a soul," and "We need to clean up the election process so we are not left feeling the way we do today." It was this kind of unfiltered attitude that had fans divided, with some applauding her bravery and others calling her reckless for quote-unquote spreading batshit conspiracy theories. What really got under Hollywood's skin was Carano's relentless critique of cancel culture. She boldly declared, "I'm not going down without a fight," after being axed from The Mandalorian, and that wasn't just talk. She partnered with Ben Shapiro's The Daily Wire to produce and star in her own movie. Carano wasn't afraid to go all in against the industry that blacklisted her. In one fiery tweet, she proclaimed, "They can't cancel us if we don't let them," which became something of a rallying cry for her supporters, many of whom had grown tired of Hollywood's increasingly political tilt. But why did she rile so many people up? On one hand, you had a woman who wasn't afraid to speak her mind in an industry that often rewards conformity. On the other hand, you had someone who critics say didn't grasp the impact of her words. Carano didn't back down, though. In fact, she doubled down, adding the words boop/bop/beat to her Twitter name in apparent ridicule of the trans convention. Carano later defended herself, saying she wasn't against trans lives at all. Gina's story isn't just about an actor falling out of favor. It's about someone who refuses to be molded by an industry that demands obedience. Whether you see her as a warrior for free speech or a provocateur who crossed the line, one thing's for sure, Gina Carano isn't done fighting. In June 2024, Carano, backed by Elon Musk and X Corp, filed a lawsuit against Disney and Lucasfilm for wrongful termination and discrimination. Love her or hate her, you have to admit, she's shaken up Hollywood in a way that few ever could. McConaughey is known for a lot of things. His smooth Texan drawl, his Oscar-winning turn in Dallas Buyers Club, and of course those infamous all right vibes. But one thing he's been doing lately that's raised more than a few eyebrows is taking on Hollywood's woke culture, and trust me, he's not exactly subtle about it. Now, Matthew isn't shy when it comes to calling out what he sees as Hollywood's hypocrisy. In one interview on Russell Brand's podcast, McConaughey took a dig at Hollywood elite, accusing them of condescending to middle America. He called out the illiberal left, saying they're often guilty of exactly the behavior they criticize: not listening, talking down, and being intolerant of opposing views. He said, "There are a lot of people on that illiberal left that absolutely condescend, patronize, and are arrogant towards that other 50%. That's right. All right isn't just for show. He's got something to say, and it's not what you might expect from a Hollywood star. But wait, there's more." During an interview with Joe Rogan, McConaughey pointed out how Hollywood seems to alienate those who don't align perfectly with a certain political mindset. He talked about how dangerous it is when an industry that is supposed to be about creativity and expression gets tied up in preaching conformity. As McConaughey put it, you gotta be aggressively centric to not let the left or right pull you too far. Essentially, he's the guy walking a tightrope while everyone else on either side is shouting at him to pick a side, except McConaughey's just out here balancing like it's no big deal, probably whistling a little tune while he's at it. What really gets people talking, though, is his willingness to question what he calls Hollywood's cancel culture. McConaughey's take is that we've gotten too quick to shut people down instead of engaging in a conversation. In a time when one wrong tweet can end a career faster than you can say, cut, McConaughey believes in the power of dialogue. We can't just be in the offense and defense, he said. Let's sit down and have a conversation. It's kind of refreshing, honestly. Like the cool breeze after a summer heat wave, because he's pushing back on an industry that thrives on extremes. Another moment that nearly derailed his good old boy persona was when he shared his thoughts on faith and politics. He believes religion and spirituality have become dirty words in Hollywood, but McConaughey, who is openly Christian, doesn't see why faith can't coexist with a more liberal mindset. "I'm a believer," he told Stephen Colbert, explaining that his faith is something that's kept him grounded amidst all the Hollywood glitz and glam, yet he has watched others in entertainment limit expressions of their faith. The cherry on top? McConaughey hasn't been shy about criticizing both sides of the political aisle, which might be the boldest move of all. It's like trying to walk through a minefield with flip-flops on, yet somehow he makes it out the other side. Still charming and laid back. For instance, he recently urged for unity, calling out both Democrats and Republicans for being too extreme and out of touch with the average American. He pointedly said that we've lost the ability to meet in the middle, to compromise. "I want to build the better bridge of communication between both sides," he said in a People interview. Russell Brand, once known for his chaotic energy and flamboyant lifestyle, has evolved into one of Hollywood's most outspoken critics of woke culture. And let's just say he's not holding back. A comedian and actor who once played the eccentric rock star Aldous Snow in Get Him to the Greek, Brand now positions himself as a cultural commentator, but instead of playing by Hollywood's rulebook, he's taken a hammer to it. In recent years, Brand has criticized what he sees as a culture of hypocrisy in Hollywood, where virtue signaling takes center stage, but real change is notably absent. He used the word pathetic when referring to Disney's efforts to sanitize their content, saying that they only cared about looking good than making good film. In his podcast, he also blasted the entire entertainment industry for trying to look good rather than making movies with authentic stories. He added that the woke culture is turning the entertainment industry into a flavorless mess. He said, "Hollywood is out of touch. They think they are speaking for the people, but they are really just talking to themselves." He also termed woke culture as the modern-day witch hunt, referring to the time he was a victim of cancel culture himself. He stated that this type of culture is no longer about accountability, but but control of how people think, and expressed concern that if we kept heading this way, free speech would be a thing of the past. He added that we lose out on genuine conversations and change when we are scared to speak our minds. Like Gina Carano, Brand has received the support of Elon Musk, who has stated that Brand is being targeted because he isn't afraid to challenge the mainstream narrative. Brand has also interviewed Rowan Atkinson, popularly known as Mr. Bean, about this subject. For those who didn't know, Mr. Bean is one of the biggest critics of woke culture. He told Brand that the culture of taking offense is hurting comedy and free speech. Mr. Bean has also slammed the cancel culture mob and said the increasing polarization online fills him with fear for the future and defends the right to insult and cause offense as part of free speech. Rowan adds, "It's important that we're exposed to a wide spectrum of opinion, but what we have now is the digital equivalent of the medieval mob roaming the streets, looking for someone to burn." Brand also stuck up for Dave Chappelle, who faced backlash for his Netflix special, as we have already seen stating,
"He's obviously joking."
Bill Maher has never been one to mince words, and when it comes to taking shots at woke Hollywood, the A Million Ways to Die in the West actor fires on all cylinders. A lifelong liberal, Maher's been fighting the good fight for decades, tackling politics, religion, and social issues with his signature brand of biting wit and unapologetic commentary. Yet, somewhere along the way, woke culture decided to hijack the conversation, and the sharp-tongued contrarian wasn't having any of it. Let's get one thing straight. Bill Maher didn't suddenly turn into a conservative just because he called out the excesses of wokeism. He's still the same guy who's championed free speech and civil liberties. But when he saw Hollywood tiptoeing around uncomfortable truths for fear of being canceled, he took a stand. And boy, did that ruffle some feathers. Maher once joked, "I don't want to live in a world where liberals are the uptight ones and conservatives do drugs and get laid," summing up what many have been thinking but were too afraid to say. What makes Maher's criticism so explosive is that it's not coming from the expected corners. He's not some Fox News pundit bashing the left for clicks. Instead, it's a liberal calling out his own tribe, making it all the more tense. Maher's beef with woke culture goes beyond the usual celebrity virtue signaling. For him, it's about preserving the ability to laugh, to think critically, and to question dogma, things he believes are essential for a functioning democracy. One of his more scathing takes came in 2021 during one of his real-time monologues, when Maher took woke Hollywood to task for its obsession with identity politics. "Liberals are the new church ladies," he quipped, comparing the over-the-top moral policing of today's progressives to the ultra-conservative moral outrage of the past. Maher's biggest gripe? The fact that nothing, literally nothing, can be funny anymore without someone being offended. He's lamented that comedians are now afraid to push boundaries, that political correctness has neutered creativity. Maher believes that this censorious climate is making art bland, predictable, and lifeless. The kind of TV shows and movies that get greenlit nowadays are so sanitized that they'd put a Disney princess to sleep. But perhaps Maher's most infamous critique came in 2022 when he tackled the issue of cancel culture head-on. After Dave Chappelle's The Closer caused uproar for its jokes about the LGBTQ+ community, Maher stepped up to defend the comedian, saying, "If you're woke and don't like it, there's always the off button." He accused the loudest voices in Hollywood of being self-appointed censors, eager to shut down anything that doesn't fit their narrow worldview. According to Maher, these culture warriors have become the very thing they once hated: intolerant, puritanical gatekeepers. What makes Maher's takedown of woke Hollywood so impactful is his history. This is a guy who's been advocating for progressive values long before it was trendy. Yet, he sees the modern-day left as having gone off the rails, hijacked by a vocal minority that's more interested in virtue signaling than real progress. Maher has repeatedly emphasized that there's a difference between being liberal and being woke. He has even compared far-left progressives to the Ku Klux Klan due to their fixation on race. Hayes has never been one to mince words, especially when it comes to the glitz and self-importance of Hollywood. He's the guy who can waltz into the most elite rooms in the world, stare down A-list actors with more awards than you can count, and proceed to rip them a new one, all while grinning like a cheeky schoolboy. Hollywood's obsession with virtue signaling? Yeah, Gervais Gervais has torched that a few times, leaving the so-called woke crowd squirming in their seats. Now here's where things get juicy. The Golden Globes. Gervais didn't just host these award shows, he practically took a sledgehammer to them. In his 2020 monologue, Gervais tore into the hypocrisy of the industry. He said,
"You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg."
Oof. The audience, usually the ones dishing out political statements and moral superiority, was dead silent, unsure whether to laugh, cry, or run. And that's Gervais at his finest, calling out what so many of us are thinking but would never dare say in that room. He didn't stop there. Gervais has openly mocked Hollywood's performative wokeness, the kind where celebrities feel the need to jump on every social justice trend, not necessarily because they care, but because they want to be seen as caring. He quipped,
"If ISIS started a streaming service, you'd call your agent, wouldn't you?"
He is also not a fan of celebrities getting involved in political issues, and he made known his disdain at the awards, emphasizing that they should focus on their work instead. But it's not just awards shows where Gervais has ruffled feathers. His Twitter account is a treasure trove of anti-woke gems. One tweet read, "Just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right." In a world where cancel culture reigns supreme and people are being canceled for every minor misstep, Gervais' blunt refusal to bend the knee is a breath of fresh air. He's made it clear time and time again, no topic is off limits for comedy. When asked about offensive jokes, he said, "You don't have the right to not be offended. Offense is subjective, and isn't that the crux of it?" For Gervais, comedy should push boundaries, not shrink to fit within the narrow confines of politically correct ideals. Hitting out at fragile and easily offended people, Ricky tweeted, "This is me pondering whether they'll change any of the words I've used in my work after I'm dead to spare those who are fragile and easily offended."